everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. Today we are going to talk about a movie, an old movie that's filmed in black and white in 1947 called The Ghost and Mrs. Muir. And it stars Rex Harrison and Gene Tierney. And there's another guy, but I can't remember his name. I didn't write it down, but these two I just mentioned have the biggest part. And Natalie Wood also plays the part as her daughter, but she doesn't have that big a part. Very small. So, go ahead, Marco. Take it away.
This is the first movie that we are reviewing together as a part of Ghost Week, which was Safi's choice. She came up with this theme, and I've already reviewed several terrible ghost movies, and now we're reviewing this one, which is like the first one that she picked. Very strange title, very strange name. I don't think there's been a woman named Mrs. Muir since like the 1950s.
Well, this was supposed to be taking place at the turn of the century.
Well, like still, I'm just saying, like.
Well, it has to be a little bit later than that because they had
cars. What is a Muir, Safi?
It's M-U-I-R. It's not her name. That was her married name, right?
If you meet a woman named Mrs. Muir, then you're gonna have a weird time, as we find out with this movie. And so, also, this movie, or I can't remember what I was gonna say actually. Safi, what'd you think about the movie?
I thought it was a very simple movie. I love Rex Harrison.
Oh, okay. I remember now. Whenever I have Safi pick something, she's always got to pick something with Rex Harrison because, fucking, when we do Best Picture Week last year or the year before, what does she pick? My Fair Lady. Like, it's weird, Safi.
I don't do it. I don't even think about that.
What is this obsession with Rex Harrison?
He plays a sea captain, and he has died, and he did not die when he was old. I think he was more in the latter stages of his life, but he wasn't so old. He couldn't have still been a sea captain. But he fell asleep and knocked over gas
heater. So, they didn't have the good heaters, like the space heaters.
No.
They had gas heaters, and so he accidentally flipped on the switch.
Anyway, he died.
Well, there's several things we're going to talk about, and one of those things is I was really surprised by that because the way that they kind of treated it, like, did he commit suicide, did he not, at the beginning, I was really surprised that there wasn't some sort of story behind that and that someone didn't kill him or something. Yeah. I thought that there would have been some kind of story that was revealed.
They were trying to make a story out of it, but there was no story. It was a simple accident.
Well, because, they treat it like a simple accident, but at the same time, I was convinced that there was more to it because it just didn't seem like they were telling the full story. It was like, okay, what's really going on here is, what's going on?
That's for another kind of movie.
Well, I didn't think it would be a huge part of the movie, but I just thought, it would be a part of the tragedy, the tragic romances that, he was actually murdered or something, that would have made it more tragic.
Well, they could make a movie like that, and maybe they have. But this was kind of like a little simple romance with a touch of comedy here and there. And the comedy occurs when he, nobody can see him except her. And I think her little girl can see him. But they never really go into that until the very end when her little girl's all grown up. But anyway, he haunts the place because she is a recent widow, and she's been living with her mother-in-law and sister-in-law. She's sick of being there with them. She wants to be on her own. and she has a daughter, and she has her own maid from when she was single. And so they go with her, and they go to this little town by the ocean, and she finds this house, and she wants to live there. Well, first she wants to look at it, and they try to keep her from doing that because I will tell her.
And I will say one of my least favorite things about the movie, or I guess one of my least favorite characters, is definitely that guy, Mr. Koo.
Oh yeah, the realtor.
He's very, very annoying.
Yeah.
I hate his voice. I hate how I don't know how forceful he is. He's like, no, you're not interested in that one, and he doesn't want her to be in the house at all.
He doesn't think she can handle it because it's haunted.
Well,
because all these other people have run away and scared, and with that kind of a house, just based on any movie or story you read or see, something like that isn't going to sell for as much.
If you think about it, the Casper movie kind of ripped this movie off.
Yeah.
Because the Casper movie kind of has the same plot as this, except for there's like an additional element that I mentioned of like, people wanting to come there to rob a treasure that's hidden somewhere and whatever. And
there's nothing like that here.
So that's kind of interesting because that happens sometimes too. Is that like you'll see a movie and you won't even realize that something else came before it, and that this movie's ripping it off. And now that I think about it, I think that Casper movie, I think it's like an okay movie, but like now that I've seen this movie, it's pretty clear that like it's kind of ripping this off, like all the way down to like I don't know. It feels very similar now that I think about it.
Well, the house isn't some big mansion.
That doesn't matter.
They call it a cottage, but to me a cottage is like a couple of rooms, like 3 rooms maybe, a kitchen, a bathroom, and a living room, and maybe a bedroom. So that's 4.
I guess a difference is
a little bit bigger.
A difference is that Christina Ricci didn't have a maid, and I think that that's something that a lot of older movies had. Is like characters who had servants and maids and slaves in some cases.
This wasn't a slave. This is a
I just think that like I don't know, like are we real, like what do you think, Safi? Are you do you miss maids being in movies? Like do you miss characters having maids? Because like if you think about it, maybe that's a reason why movies aren't as good anymore.
I don't know.
Because characters don't have maids.
They could be great character actors. If you think about, I was watching Rear Window. It's like my favorite movie, and this is a little bit different, but the guy has broken his leg, and he has his health nurse come in. She's got to check his cast and check his blood pressure and his temperature and all that, and give him a massage and all this crap. But the woman who played her is a great character actress. And nowadays they don't have character actors as much, not like they did before. That's what they talked about with this Lon Chaney Jr., that he was a great character actor. And then being able to do all that makeup added to his being able to play all these different parts. So, I mean, that's just the difference. But and then
I don't know. I think they discourage character acting because
I don't know why they do, because I think they can be a lot of fun and they can be really good.
I think it has to do with the agencies. I think it has to do with like I don't know. There has to be some sort of a reason behind it because
I can think of one obvious one.
What?
They take screen time away from the big character, the one that makes the most money.
Yeah.
And that's stupid.
Well,
I mean, look at Alfred in Batman. Does he have a huge?
Which character actor would that be?
Well, I don't know. Let's see.
The guy who played him in the Michael Keaton movies wasn't a character actor.
Well, I'm trying to think.
Michael Caine is not a character actor.
I was thinking about Michael Caine. Well, maybe in that cartoon, movie. I don't know, but I think character actors is kind of like having spices in your food, and they can really help the movie.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is true. They might outshine,
Well,
especially nowadays.
I think there are some times where character actors can be kind of irritating.
Yeah, there's
because
that too.
They can be kind of like so much into it being this character that they're like stereotypes.
Well, it probably depends on the directing too.
I don't
Think
know
about it, how they're directed, because they have to have direction too.
Well, this movie had a direction. It was a very simple story.
Very simple.
And it's basically a romance between this captain and Mrs. Muir.
And she's a widow, like
And
I said.
There's several disturbing things here, and I'm just not going to have Safi go through the entire movie or something.
I'm not going to go through the entire movie.
I don't know. That's what you like to
set
do.
It up, though.
Really?
They're not. They were living.
I did. I said it's a romance about them.
And she wanted to get away from her in-laws and live on her own.
You already said that, so now you're repeating yourself too, and nobody likes that.
Okay, well that's setting it up.
Okay, well we already did that 20 minutes ago. So this movie, there are several disturbing things here, and one of those things is that this captain, he comes to this agreement with Mrs. Muir. It's an agreement where he will only stay in her bedroom with her. He will only be in her bedroom all the time, all day long. That's the only place that he will be. He will not be in her living room or kitchen. He won't be in her daughter's room, thankfully.
Or bother the maid.
And, he will just be with her in her bedroom, conveniently. And he also wants his picture to be in her bedroom, too.
That's a painting.
And it's kind of strange, because it's like, why did he want the painting in the bedroom? Like, was he just that big of a fan of it? Or did he want her to, kind of know, deep down that, while she's getting undressed, that his painting is watching her?
Well,
because he's got to be he's kind of a pervert. He's kind of a perverted ghost, right, Safi?
No.
I mean, why? I mean, he was like, oh, well, let's make a deal. I'll just be in your bedroom with you.
Well, what's funny about this thing that starts off in the bedroom is he asked her to bring the painting up to the bedroom because he wants it up there, which Marco said. Okay, so it's nighttime, it's bedtime, so she kind of puts it on the couch or whatever it's called, and she starts getting ready for bed. And I'll tell you this is one thing I noticed: her bedtime ritual is rather lengthy. She has to do all this stuff with her hair and all this crap, and everything's got to be perfect. She's got to fluff up the pillow. She has to have a hot water bottle, which they used to do a lot in the 40s and 50s. We had a hot water bottle, so I remember, but I don't remember ever using it. But anyway, so she starts getting undressed, and then she sees that painting in her mirror, and she's like, oh. And then she kind of goes over there and she covers it up with an Afghan. So she does all her routines, and she gets under the covers and turns out the light. And the captain says, you have a very lovely figure or something like that. And she's like,
see?
That was stupid.
See?
And she covers up the painting when he's there and he can see her. So
yeah, and that's even worse, because he's basically telling her, yes, I am watching you get naked. My painting, is also, but, if you cover that up, that's not going to make a difference here.
Yeah, but I just thought it was funny, she covered up the painting like that was going to matter at all when she should know that he's there.
It's pretty scary.
So anyway, I don't think he does that all the time.
Yeah, he did, Safi.
Bull.
That's
I think
that's
he
in
did
the
it like that one time.
no, that's in the deleted scenes.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, you just have a bunch of scenes where she's doing things and he's watching her and he's like, I'm Rex Harrison.
Well, the funniest parts in the movie, well, that, to me, I thought that was kind of funny because she was being so silly and ridiculous.
Well, I really liked the first half, but I thought that the second half kind of faltered because in the second half, they introduced this other character and I just hated him.
I didn't like
and
it either. It's another author.
He was so gross and queer and he was so, like, slimy and you could just tell that he was like a
bad boy.
He was just ew. Like there's something about him, or he was like I don't know, like a weirdo, and I just really didn't like him or his character. And so, like when he was taking away screen time from her and the captain, I was really upset because, like, you know, I thought that the whole movie would just be him and her for the most part. I didn't think that you'd have this stupid subplot about this other guy and he's like a piece of shit. His name is Mr. Farley and
he's a children's book author.
Yeah.
And when
that's a red flag.
Well, not really, but she was getting little stipends from her departed husband's gold strike account or something. Like dividends, she was getting dividends. Well, that stopped. And her in-laws came to tell her, and she was going to have to find a way to support herself. And so the captain said, hey, you know, let's write a book about me.
And that was another thing, was that, like, they wrote this book together, and it was really good, and we didn't get to hear anything in it at all.
No.
And that was kind of disappointing because, you know, I already talked about this in another review where I think that that's one of my movie pet peeves, is that people will have like this really magical book or movie or invention and you don't even really get to see or know what it is. And so, like, oh, look, I made the most popular video game in the whole world, and you never get to see the video game. You know, like, that's something that always is, like, irritating.
Well, when she first meets him, he starts telling her some kind of story. Tells her a couple of stories, like how he died, because everybody thinks he committed suicide. He didn't. We already talked about that, but there was some other story I don't remember. And so I thought, too, that we might hear some more of those, because it sounded kind of interesting, because the book, you know, they would talk about it, you know, while they were doing the book. She was writing the book to earn money to support herself, and he told her to hawk some jewelry, too, that she had. And so that it was going to be a serious problem. But this guy, Marco was talking about, this bad boy author.
Uh-oh, you're doing it.
Well, he let her take his place, and
You're
that's
doing
how
it.
the publisher agreed to publish the book.
You're doing it.
Well, it just didn't magically happen.
Well, I don't know why it matters. Nobody cares.
Well, that's the way it goes.
No.
So anyway, that's it with that.
Yeah.
So it was interesting because she's using this, oh God, old horrible manual typewriter, which I've tried to use, and you have to have like really superior finger strength. And I remember when we were in Tanzania, that's all they had. I'd been typing at least on an IBM Selectric, which is very easy to use. And they were typing on those old manual typewriters where you have to press your fingers way down, and oh God. But so that's what she was typing the manuscript on.
So she falls in love with this guy, and the captain gets jealous and he leaves her, and then she finds out that he's married, and then and so then she lives alone for the rest of her life, and then she dies and gets together with the captain. Okay, no more getting into okay, so
it's
now
a very simple story.
We'll talk about what we thought about it, because that's what a review is supposed to be. And you know, I really didn't like the fact that in the second half the captain just leaves her and he never comes back.
I was kind of surprised by that.
Because I thought, why leave her, and instead, like, why wouldn't you just stay there and sabotage the relationship? Because, like, apparently he could go anywhere. He wasn't just constrained to that area like an American Horror Story, supposedly. So, he could have followed them anywhere and just completely sabotaged their relationship, which, I think that would have been the smart thing to do. I just don't see why he left her, because what did he do? Did he just, like, float around in the ocean? And that's a big plot hole of this movie.
I don't know.
Like, even though it's very enjoyable, it's such a huge plot hole that, like, in the second half, not only does Mrs. Muir sit around on her ass for her entire life.
She takes walks.
Yeah, she takes walks, and she just sits around. And then fucking Captain whatever, what does he do? Like, he just floats around and, like, oh, look, there's that plane that was going to Malaysia that they never found. Oh, look.
No, I don't think so. They hadn't happened yet.
Oh, look, it's Amelia Earhart. Maybe I should write a book about that, but I'm not going to do anything like that would actually be interesting to do. I'm just going to float around in space for 50 years. Yeah. I mean, Safi, isn't that kind of retarded? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I didn't think about it much, but it was really, I thought he would come back because I was thinking he was going to let her figure it out for herself. He knew that the guy was bad. He said something. He was watching them. And he kind of wasn't surprised that she fell for him. That's what he acted like. But and I thought, well, he's going to let her figure it out for herself because that's the way it should be anyway.
And then he'll come back.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He waits until she dies. So he left her and he went around. What did he do? Like, what did he do for all that time?
And what did she do?
What did she do? She didn't
walks.
She didn't do anything. Like, are you serious? Like, she should have been a Biggest Loser contestant at that point. Like,
I thought they would write more books together too.
Yeah,
I
thought they'd do something. Like, and that's part of the problem sometimes when you do these stories that they're very emotional, they're very, like, hyperbolic of, like, oh, and she never was with anyone again the rest of her life, and she died alone, and he left her and just waited until she died and didn't do anything else.
and their ghost went off together into heaven.
That's the problem with that, is that, like, it has to make sense. It has to make sense. In Romeo and Juliet, it made sense. In this movie, it does not make sense. It's stupid. It seems like they're kind of insulting our intelligence because it's like, what did she do for all those years? Did she sit around watching the Andy Griffith Show on television all day long? Like, what did she do? Like, what happened after she wrote that book? Didn't she have to write another book? Wasn't he like, can't you get the captain to come write another book? And
that's what I was going to say. He had to have had a pretty, even though he did not die when he was old, he did have a pretty long career, and that it wouldn't all fit into that one little book.
Yeah.
That's another thing. That's why I thought they would continue to write books together. And that's what for some reason, that's what I thought they did.
And she tells the publisher, I'll tell you one day the truth about the captain. And then she never does, apparently.
No.
She never does it, but, like, it's just so poorly handled that the second half of this movie. And then you just the fact, too, that, like, she seemed to be really interested in the captain in the first half of the movie. But then all of a sudden, because that other guy shows up, she just, like, completely loses interest in him or something. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Well,
like,
I think she's thinking he's alive, the captain's not.
But still...
The guy was sweeping her off her feet.
Not really. He was a weirdo.
He was really, like, laying it on thick. I'll put it that way. And you're thinking, like... And then I think he asked her to spend the night or something. It's the way they worded it. It didn't come out like that, and I was thinking maybe because back then they couldn't be so forward. I mean, they couldn't say something so direct or so explicit. So it was like one of those kind of, I don't know, they call it a word salad where it wasn't direct, but anyway, that's what I thought it was. And I think she refused. But I mean, like I said, he was laying it on thick.
He also paints a picture of her in her quote-unquote bathing suit, which is like hardly any bathing suit at all. And the maid has a fit about it and says that, like, acts like she's doing something wrong by being painted in her bathing suit.
And
that was funny.
I have an old postcard of these women at up in oh God, what's that place up in northern Ohio with the big theme park? There's a lake shore, and they have women in those kinds of clothing, bathing suits, and I mean they just cover everything, and they're real weird looking. I don't know. There's like ruffles and lots of fabric, and I don't know. I think they're ugly, and so. But this was really, I mean, this was supposed to be at the turn of the century or when cars first came out, whatever date that was, and this was even worse. This was like longer. The legs were like almost completely covered, and so anyway. So he paints this picture, and she puts it up next to the captain's picture in her bedroom.
And that was queer as well.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
I thought that was stupid.
Didn't like it either.
Yeah. And so I liked the first half a lot. I didn't like the second half as much, but I would still say that it was a good movie. You know, there's a very very clear quality difference between the movies coming out nowadays and then movies like this. Like, it's pretty funny. You could basically you could just pick up any movie from the 40s and watch it, and you could tell that, like, this is a quality movie. It was written by adults. It has a mature adult perspective. And you look at the movies nowadays, and it's like, this is just complete garbage. And so, you know, I would still say the movie's pretty good. I don't know if I'll watch it again for a long time, though, because...
Would you watch a couple of the episodes of the TV series they made over on it?
The hell?
Oh, yeah. I remember. I watched a little bit of it. I wasn't into it.
Well, I think the story needs tinkering.
They had a TV series, and I don't know if it's in the 70s. God,
no, it was the 60s. It was on IMDb. I just thought it was a movie.
No. There was a TV show with episodes, and I don't know who played the parts. It seems like this blonde woman played the Mrs. Muir. But it was kind of oriented toward like being a sitcom. So there was more.
Oh, I don't like that.
Maybe
I don't like that. And see,
I don't really remember it that well.
This movie worked well because it wasn't completely a comedy.
No, there's just some little parts.
It was a drama, romance, comedy, a little bit, and that's why it worked. You know, nowadays, it would have either just been a drama or it would have been a comedy. There wouldn't have been any in between. And that's another thing nowadays, is that there's a lot of movies and they're kind of like afraid to have like different genres inside the same movie for some reason. Like maybe they think that like the audience won't like it. You know, they won't like that they can't easily define this movie as a comedy or a drama. But like that's the some of the best movies.
Well, it was kind of like there was a mystery, like about his death.
They solved that in like the first 20 minutes. It was like a 2-minute mystery.
In 2 seconds.
See, it should have been a bigger part in the story.
And there was some comedy, but it was very light and put in very distinct moments. And then it was a romance. I'd say it was mostly a romance.
Yeah.
But it was very pleasant. But still, you kind of wished it had some of these parts. You have to check out the series. Just watch a couple episodes. because you might like it. I can't remember it that well. I don't ever remember thinking I didn't like it. And I don't think it's some kind of like a regular sitcom where everybody's laughing. I don't know how to describe it.
I just want the second half of this movie to be fixed.
I
Safi?
think everybody's dead. It's
Fix
too
it.
late.
Fix it.
Too late.
Well, use AI.
Yeah, use AI.
Use computer generation.
Of Gene Tierney
And
and Rex Harrison, and then the Lothario guy.
no, he delete him from the movie. Nobody wanted him in the movie.
I know.
She didn't have to have another romance. That was stupid.
Even the little girl, she tells her years later when she's an adult. First, she tells her she knew the captain and she was in love with him. They never talked about him. That was weird to me. And then she also tells her she didn't like that man, that author.
Yeah.
Which I thought was weird too. So I thought I'd seen this movie a long time ago, and I just didn't remember. I thought the girl said it when she was a little girl. She told her mother, but she didn't. She kept it quiet.
Well, apparently this movie won the Oscar for Best Cinematography.
Yeah.
Which I think I'm kind of surprised that nobody even got nominated for acting, because I'd say both of them deserve to be at least nominated. I mean, I don't know what else came out.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
Like, what would have been better than that?
It was a beautiful seascape with the ocean and the lighthouse. And it was just really beautiful. And they had a storm, and the waves were really big. It's just really cool.
Another thing was, like, the tree outside in the back. You know, he planted this, like, monkey tree, and it didn't fit at all, and it didn't look right, and she had it chopped down, and he got mad about it. And I was also surprised that didn't have any significance, because the way that he got upset over it and the way they kept on emphasizing it, I thought, is there something more to this tree? Like, what's there else to this tree? Like, I don't know. Like, so there were several things in this movie that I was like, is there more to that? Is there more to that? No. It's just he's in love with her because he watches her every day in the bedroom, getting dressed.
They have talks and everything, too.
Yeah,
you can tell they're falling in love.
That's like 20% of it, Safi, for the captain.
Marco.
Well, that's his character. Did you see his face, Safi? Did he look like a trustworthy guy?
Yes.
Okay. So you would trust him to take a child to McDonald's?
Marco.
You'd trust him to take a child to the doctor's office? Would you trust him with your life?
Oh my God. Marco's being a little bit overdramatic now.
Why?
Turning into some kind of weird thing.
But the movie was overdramatic.
Well, it's funny too when they get to a dramatic part and there's like shock or something. They get the violins. They go, you know, like really lay it on to the F forte.
Yeah, and that's another thing. The music's good, and it's like
music is really good.
It's just reminiscent of how, you know, we talk all the time now about how nowadays the music is so terrible, or it's hardly even there. You don't even notice it. And then you go to a movie from the 40s like this, and it's like the music is its own character.
Yes, it emphasizes the drama.
Yeah.
What's going on.
And
or the comedy.
There are several times where, like, all of a sudden the music goes from 0 to 100, and, like, very sudden moments. And it's like, they'd never do that nowadays because, I don't know.
Well,
it's another mysterious
thing. When she finds out the guy's
thing.
married, she finds it out from his wife. And, of course, the violins come in there. I just thought it was funny.
I don't know why they don't do that nowadays either.
No, neither.
Because they suck. Because they suck. That's why.
And, you know, for the Academy Awards, you were talking about that flower Killers of the Flower Moon. The music was nominated for that.
Oh!
I know some kind of music. I was kind of shocked.
What music?
I know.
It was shit.
I don't know.
It was terrible.
That's why I brought it up, because we're talking about the music and how
3.5 hours.
how lovely the music was for this movie.
Yeah.
And how it emphasized it, kind of like it's like a decoration or an emphasis or a point, a punctual, like a, what do they call, an exclamation point to the story that you're trying to tell. By introducing this music, it highlights the drama.
It's an important part of the movie making process. It's not something that should be skipped over, and just be treated like, oh, let's just hire a music guy. Let's just make some music, and it's like, yeah, who cares?
We've seen a lot, probably most of the Alfred Hitchcock movies, and they did that with the music constantly. They used that to emphasize what was going on, and even the horror ones like Psycho, very famous, iconic music. So I mean, that's what I say. There's nothing to stop people from nowadays doing the same thing.
No.
And it's kind of ridiculous. They could make their movies a lot more interesting.
I guess maybe it could be a little expensive because in order to create the same type of music that's in this movie, you'd have to hire like an entire orchestra or something.
But they should have one for the movie.
Yeah, but like anyone all over the place, they can't afford to do that. And so, it's the fact that like all these people can't, but these studios can, and they don't. That's the problem. They get millions of dollars, and they have a 3.5 hour movie, and the music is just like random music from the 1930s. Like just random generic music that, it's like a radio station circulating or going through different songs that are just random, and it's like terrible. So this movie, what would you give it in terms of food, Safi?
I was just thinking about that.
Maybe you wouldn't yawn if you chose to do this review at a reasonable time.
I'm thinking, well, we had to...
No.
I don't know even talk about, but anyway.
I don't think so.
I don't know. I think I'd give it like a fruit salad that had marshmallows and nuts.
You already did that like a couple of days ago.
No, I didn't.
For a review. Yeah, you did.
I didn't.
Yeah, there was some review a couple of days ago. You were like, I give it a fruit salad with marshmallows and nuts. Yeah, you did.
Okay, I would give it a vanilla pudding because it is very plain. And then I would put some, a couple of like 5 or 6 maraschino cherries on the top, or maybe slices of banana with some whipped cream. And that would be all the special parts of it that I liked, with the captain and those little funny things where he scared people, like when her mother-in-law and sister-in-law came to the house and they delivered the news. They wanted her to come back. She refused, and then they were mad in a huff because she's talking to him, although they can't see him or hear him. So she sends them away, and they're going down the stairs, and they start going back up, and he's there standing on the stairs, and he grabs them by their arms. And then finally, one thinks the other's grabbing their arm, and then finally he just grabs them both and sends them on their way out the front door. And so it's really funny because they don't know what's going on because they don't see him. So I add those little things to the vanilla pudding because it was just a very simple romance, I think.
Yeah.
And the story really isn't that complicated. So you just add a few things here and there to illustrate the special points of the movie. And that's it. Okay, what do you think?
Well, I'm just gonna copy you, and I'm gonna give it look, because I think like it has to be a food where you enjoy it, and then you're left wanting more because the second half is a letdown. And, that kind of happens. There's a reason why I never really eat pudding. And that's because when you eat pudding, like if you get like a pudding cup, and it's like, let's say it's a chocolate and vanilla and chocolate, like a triple layer thing, and you eat it, and it's really enjoyable. It tastes really, really good. But then there's no more of it, and you're just sitting there like an idiot. And you're like, I want to have more pudding now. Why can't I have more pudding? And in the second half of this movie, I'm like, I want more of the captain and her. I don't want her alone becoming a femcel cat lady, Twitter feminazi biatch like she does in the movie, basically. I want her and the captain. And so it's like, it didn't give me that. And there's also just things that I was left thinking about and just being like curious about, like things that I wanted to be answered and just questions that I had in the second half. But the first half was enjoyable and entertaining, and it was like pudding. But then the second half, you're just sitting there like, I had that one cup of pudding. I want more. I want more. Because another thing you think about is that at the end of the movie, they go off together. Where do they go?
I think they went to heaven together.
Really?
I guess.
They didn't tell me that. Nope. So how would I know?
They didn't say anything. They both walk off. They both, she's young again because when she dies, she's an old lady. She has a heart attack. She's gripping her arm, so she's going to have a heart attack. And she dies. Her milk, she's drinking hot milk to help her sleep, and it falls to the floor, and she's dead there. And you see the light coming in.
So they don't show you anything of like what they actually do together. It's just they walk off into. They just walk off outside
to the sunset.
And it's nice, but it doesn't make very much sense. It's a very romanticized and emotional type of thing, which is good, but it just leaves me with questions rather than being happy about them being together, because especially after he like floated around in space for 50 years, she sat around all day for 50 years waiting to die, and then
that's what I thought was.
He comes back. That. Yeah, that was weak.
One thing I did like that she wasn't weak in the beginning, because
she became weak though.
She wanted to be.
That's her journey as a character.
She wanted to be on her own, and she could have been whining and crying, and we had to go live with her mother-in-law and sister-in-law and be dependent. But she didn't want to do that. She wanted to be on her own, and then she even said, my life doesn't mean much of anything. I haven't done anything. And that's when they were talking about the book. And she was kind of upset because they were done with the book. And this is what we talked about this already. I thought his life he had enough of a life of a sea captain. He'd had to have tons of adventures. And there would be more than enough to fill several books, not just one. That's why I thought they would continue to write books together.
And his experience as a ghost, you could easily have him go somewhere where she can't go, and he can give her this entire story about his observations of like, I went to this secret prison in the middle of nowhere, and I witnessed this story go on. And so we're going to write a prison story. And then, look, I went to this place and I observed how these people lived in Japan and how there is no actual Godzilla there. That's not real. But, what is real, ... Let's put it down in a book. But instead, he leaves her. What does he do? What does she do? That was irritating.
Yeah. I think they were just making a little romance, and then that was it. But
they were being hyperbolic. They were being like, you know, he leaves her for a lifetime and she's alone for a lifetime. And it's like, that would have worked if you had just added to it to make it make sense. Like, what does the publisher do? Like, does he just not, does he never come back to her to try to get her to write anything? Does she never confess to him? Does she never wonder where the captain is? Does the captain ever come back to visit her?
Well, they did show
like ever.
They showed a scene where every time he would come to see her, there was some kind of a nautical instrument on her mantle, and it would ding, 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 and he would be there. That would be like a signal that he was there, like he touched it or something. And it did, when she was alone, and it was years later, it dinged once, and she looked up. She was looking for him, but he didn't appear. So I don't know if he was there and he just didn't appear for her or what. Like he's keeping an eye on her, but not revealing himself.
I don't think he was. I don't know. They didn't tell us, so
nope.
How would I know?
Nope.
I'm not going to put together a story.
Nope. So anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you've seen that TV series, let us know what you thought about it. I might check out an episode if I can. And become one of our subscribers. We welcome new subscribers, and we welcome commentary about what we've watched and what you're watching. And that's it. So goodbye, everybody.
Bye.